Hello to all my dear students. So today we are going to start with the final lecture of the chapter Ecosystem. I hope you all have gone through the first 3 lectures of ecosystem and have understood each and every topic in a very simple and easy manner. Today we are going to start with the last function of ecosystem, which is nutrient cycling. And then we will discuss about the ecological services. Today's lecture is going to be very simple and short to simply cover the last topic of the chapter, nutrient cycling. You know beta, plants, they take up the nutrient from the soil and then they produce food in the form of glucose, which is the actually biomass generated, which is the actual food for the entire earth to all the different living organisms. That food is only transferred in some or the other different manner. Right, so basically we know soil is the reservoir for all the nutrients. Everything is coming from the soil. But the nutrients which we take up from the soil has to be returned back also. So that's returning of nutrient back in the soil so that plants can again take up the same nutrient and again continue this cycle. This cycle is known as nutrient cycle, also called as biogeochemical cycle. So what is nutrient cycle? Nutrient cycle simply means flow of nutrients between the soil and the different biotic component. And different biotic component, right? So what is this nutrient cycle? Nutrient cycle simply means flow of nutrients between the soil and the different biotic component via energy flow and via decomposition. See, whatever energy plant has produced, if that is not being transferred to another organism through energy flow, then nutrient cycle is not possible. Then if that organism dies and if it is not getting decomposed with the help of different decomposers, then again nutrient cycle is not possible. So this function of ecosystem is completely dependent upon energy flow and decomposition, right? Second important point you will write, but nutrient cycles are also known as biogeochemical cycle. This is the other term, and there are 2 types of biogeochemical cycle: sedimentary and gaseous. Sedimentary and gaseous. Sedimentary nutrient cycles are those whose reservoir are in the rock. Reservoir in the rock, that means from where the nutrients will get replenished, it is actually the rock. Like for example, phosphorus cycle. Phosphorus, the actual source of phosphorus is rock. The ultimate reservoir of the phosphorus is rock in the soil. Such are called as sedimentary. Gaseous cycles are those whose reservoir is in the atmosphere. That means like for example, carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, oxygen cycle, all these, the sources are coming from the atmosphere. Carbon is taken in the form of CO2. Oxygen is taken again in the form of water or individually. Nitrogen is coming from the atmosphere, which is fixed by the nitrogen fixing bacteria, and then it is made to come in the soil, from where then it is absorbed by the roots of the plant. So ultimately, all these elements, they are coming from the atmosphere. So the source is atmosphere. Therefore, such cycles are called as gaseous cycle. Whose source is in the rock, then such cycles are called as sedimentary cycle. Correct? Yes or no, everyone? So what is sedimentary cycle and what is gaseous cycle? I hope till here the concept is clear to everyone. Now, basically you have to discuss two cycle, one of gaseous, another of sedimentary. In sedimentary, we will discuss about phosphorus, and in gaseous, we will discuss about the carbon cycle. So let's start with the discussion of carbon cycle. I have knowingly taken this screenshot from your NCERT so that we cover each and every point given in your book and none of the points get missed out. Okay, chalo. So beta, according to this carbon cycle, if I talk about, you know, it is a gaseous cycle. The ultimate source of carbon is in the atmosphere, present in the form of CO2. Plants are the only organism who take in CO2, use that CO2 for photosynthesis, produce food and release oxygen in return via photosynthesis. Correct? The carbon which is taken up by the green plants, it is fixed into glucose, and then that glucose forms the biomass and then it is transferred to different organisms. Right? Okay, well done. Now beta, apart from this, the all other organisms on earth except plants, all human beings, all other organisms for respiration, they are taking in oxygen but releasing CO2, combustion, burning and all other different mechanisms like vehicle emission, everything is taking in O2 and giving out CO2. So plants are the only source who can purify your air by taking in that CO2 and releasing O2, and they use that carbon of the CO2 for the production of biomass. It is said that annually, where it is written, okay, let's try to read. When you study the composition of living organism, carbon, हमारी body में carbon, पानी, after water, the second most important component of our body is carbon. Our 49% of the dry weight is carbon, which is next to water. If we look at the total quantity of global carbon, we find that 71% of the carbon is dissolved in oceans. Very, very important. So the major area where dissolved CO2 is present is in ocean. Next, this oceanic reservoir regulates the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. Correct? So CO2 concentration is more in the water, which is about 71% of the total, and it maintains the flow of CO2 in the atmosphere from where other organisms, basically plants, are consuming for preparing food. Next. Now, okay, one more thing. Carbon cycling occurs through atmosphere, ocean and through living and dead organism. According to one's estimate, annually 4 into 10 to the power 3 kgs of carbon is fixed via photosynthesis. That means the total number of green plants present on earth, be it in aquatic or terrestrial region, they are consuming 4 into 10 to the power kgs of carbon and producing biomass from that, and this biomass is hugely sufficient to feed all the different biotic components, all the different species. Right? Now, a considerable amount of carbon returns to the atmosphere as CO2. You know, plants are only taking in CO2 and releasing oxygen. Otherwise, all other organisms, they are simply taking in oxygen and releasing CO2 via respiration, burning, vehicular combustion, vehicular emission, industrial emission. हर कहीं से CO2 बाहर आ रहा है and oxygen is getting consumed. Correct? Decomposition also, even when bacteria, they decompose the dead organic matter, then too they are consuming high amount of oxygen. You remember I told you decomposition is an aerobic process. For bacteria to decompose dead organic matter, they take in oxygen, they respire and then they release CO2 outside. So this decomposition is also an energetically expensive phenomena, and it is aerobic process which consumes oxygen and releases CO2 outside. So read it. Decomposers also contribute substantially to CO2 pool by the processing of waste material and dead organic matter. Some amount of fixed carbon is lost to sediments and removed from circulation. Burning of wood, forest fire, and combustion of organic matter, fossil fuels, volcanic activity are different sources of CO2 getting released in the atmosphere. So you see, there are different sources which are releasing CO2 in the atmosphere. But there is only one source which consumes that CO2 and releases oxygen, that is plants. So isn't our important duty to plant more and more trees so that your environment remains healthy, so that proper carbon cycle keeps on taking place? Now, if more and more deforestation you practice, then intake of CO2 will decline, outtake, release of oxygen will decline, and how then we will survive? The environment will become impure day by day due to increased deforestation, due to decrease in the rate of photosynthesis. The environment will become impure every day. If you really want to keep your environment pure, then plantation is the only source. So this is always said, keep your environment green. Green environment, clean environment. Clean why? Because green organisms, that is trees and plants, will perform photosynthesis in the presence of light. They will take in CO2, fix that CO2 in the form of sugar. That sugar will act as that sugar will not act only as a source of food, but during this process oxygen gas will also be released, and that oxygen will be consumed by different organisms for respiration, combustion, decomposition, burning, vehicle, everything. For everything oxygen is required. Correct? Yes or no? Okay, very good. Now, next is phosphorus cycle. Beta, phosphorus cycle, unlike that of carbon cycle, is not found in the atmosphere, is not a gaseous cycle. Rather, it is a sedimentary cycle. That means its reservoir are in the soil. The presence of phosphorus in the environment is nil. There is no release of phosphorus during your respiration. When you exhale, it contains CO2, it contains water vapor, but it does not contain phosphorus. So no rainfall, no respiration, nothing is producing phosphorus, so that in the atmosphere the concentration of phosphorus is very, very limited, or no phosphorus. Whatever phosphorus is there is either in your body or in the soil. So this phosphorus cycle is basically taking place through different living organisms and soil. Clear? And this phosphorus is coming in the soil due to the weathering of rock. Rocks are the source of phosphorus. Rock if may phosphorus is present in the form of different hypophosphates and phosphates. So when this rock breaks down, when it weathers, then phosphorus comes in the soil. Plants, they take up. So basically what is there? Rocks are there. Right? Now rocks, they are undergoing weathering. So as a result, they are producing soil. Now from the soil, it is taken up by the plants. Now from the plants, it goes to animals. Now what will happen? These plants and animals will die. Death will take place. After death, decomposition, and due to decomposition, the nutrients will again be released in the soil. So basically this is how phosphorus is going on. So this release of phosphorus is nowhere in the atmosphere. This is the simple phosphorus cycle. Here you see there is no release of phosphorus in the environment. जो भी बेटा phosphorus होता है, it is just present in the different biotic organisms in your body, your bones, teeth, all the plasma membrane, DNA, RNA, they are having phosphorus incorporated. ATP, adenosine triphosphate, is also having phosphorus. You know, phosphorus is one of the major macronutrient which is required in great amount for building your cells, for building your genetic material, for building your bones and teeth. Everywhere phosphorus is required, but there is no phosphorus in the environment. So this is a simple cycle of phosphorus. I hope you all have understood this. Now the last topic is ecological services. Beta, it is said that, see, in today's world, nothing comes for free, right? Not even your education is free, not even your medical is free, nothing, not even water is free. Everything, whatever you buy from the market, you have to pay its price. But if you look to the environment, see, this nature is giving you so much. This nature has given you plants who are giving you free food. Suppose I have a mango tree at my home. So yearly basis I will get mango fruits. I don't have to do anything. That mango tree will produce fruit by themselves. If I have lemon tree, I don't have to do anything. Lemon will come automatically. With time, the tree will produce fruits. So nature is giving you trees, nature is giving you water, nature is giving you soil. इतना सब कुछ देती है nature. In return, is it demanding something? Is it asking you something? No. Imagine if nature starts asking you something. If nature starts asking that, chalo, pay to my services. If I'm giving you water, if I'm giving you this fresh water in the form of river and lakes, then chalo, for every bucket of water, pay this much amount of money. Okay, when you're building a land, you're using my soil. Soil is of the earth. And if you're using the soil of the earth, then nature will say, okay, you want this land? Chalo, give me this much money. Now, if you're taking in oxygen, this oxygen is of environment. It is free of cost. But suppose if nature starts demanding that, okay, if you have taken these many breaths, okay, you have to pay. Then imagine what would be our condition. So there was a scientist called Robert Constanza. Robert Constanza tried to put the price tag on every ecological services given to us at free of cost. Free mein hai, that's why we don't care about it. We simply waste it. We don't protect, we don't save water. We simply impure water. We simply, with human activities, we pollute water. We are polluting environment. We are destroying land. We are cutting down trees. Why? Because all these services are for free and we don't understand their value. We will only understand the value if we have to pay the price for it. So this fellow Robert Constanza tried to put the price tag on every ecological services, and he found that the price would be thrice the total global GDP, which is 18 trillion US dollar. Now read it. What did he say? Robert Constanza said, so Robert Constanza and his colleagues have very recently tried to put price tags on nature's life support services. According to him, and researchers have put an average price tag of US dollar 33 trillion. That means if ecological services has to be paid off, then yearly basis पे हमें 33 trillion dollar rupees pay करने पड़ेंगे, which is almost twice, not thrice, sorry, twice the global GDP of the entire earth. मतलब the total amount of money generated on earth is only 18 trillion. And if ecological services को अगर हमें पैसा देना पड़ेगा, then it will be twice of that. From where will you bring the money? The question is this, which is twice, this is nearly twice the value of the global gross national product, which is US 18 trillion dollar. So from where will you bring that much amount of money? So it is said that when you can't pay for a service, respect for that service. We can't pay nature back for what it is. The nature is giving you so much that you can't pay for the services given to you by the nature, then why can't we at least respect it? Don't spoil. Yes or no? Have you all understood the value of ecological services? Okay, out of the total cost of various ecosystem services, soil accounts for 50%. Other like recreation and nutrient cycle are less than 10%. The cost of climatic regulation and habitat wildlife is about 6% each. So you have to remember this data, that which ecological service has what amount of contribution. So in this 33 trillion, 50% is of the soil only. मतलब 33 trillion dollar का 50% तो हमें soil को ही देना पड़ता, because on soil you are building your homes, you are building your factories, you are building forest, you are performing vegetation. सब कहाँ कर रहे हो? Where you are living? Where am I walking? I am walking on the land. This land is soil. So if the soil starts taking money, then I will almost have to give near about $15 trillion on yearly basis to the soil itself. Apart from this good climatic regulation, the wildlife, everything will start demanding money. And every service given by ecology, if it starts demanding, then you know this much amount you have to pay, and every service has their own contribution, which is given in percentage wise by Robert Constanza and his colleague. You have to remember it. Questions from this section can also be directly asked in your NEET examination. So with this, we finally come to the end of the simple, easy chapter ecosystem. I hope you all have well understood this chapter. Now only 2 more chapters to go from class 12th biology. 11th we have already done in the form of victory batch, and this excellence was released for completing your 12th syllabus, which is also almost done. Only 2-week chapter, only 2 weeks are left. 2 chapters, 2 weeks, more than sufficient. And then we will do some quick revision. You know, your NEET examination date has been declared. It is going to be in the first week of May, and hardly some time is left. So we all have to buck up our heels and, you know, get set ready for the NEET examination. By the beginning of January, this excellence batch will be over, and soon we are launching a series where most frequently asked topics will be taught to you in 5 or 10 minutes. So yes, that is going to be very, very exciting. Stay tuned, stay connected, keep learning. Thank you for watching me. Bye bye everyone. Take care.